Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to drive stick. First things first, before you get into the car, you want to make sure that you're not wearing bulky shoes. Bulky shoes, they make a big difference. You probably won't be able to feel the clutch as well, and it's not a great idea when you're dealing with 3 pedals down there. So first things first, don't wear bulky shoes. I would recommend going to an empty parking lot such as this one. Just so you know you don't hit anything, and you're not worried about stopping all the time and going and people holding up traffic. That'd just be a terrible idea to drive in the open roads, just learning how to drive stick. So now we're going to get into a couple rules of driving stick before you get started, so that you don't get confused down the road. So rule number 1, you have to press in the clutch every single time that you're going to shift. Every single time. If you're shifting into neutral, if you're shifting out of neutral, if you're shifting into reverse, you have to press the clutch every single time. That's rule number 1. And rule number 2, never let the clutch go unless you're in neutral or you're going. So you can't just let the clutch out when you're in first gear, when you're at a stop sign. You have to put it into neutral or keep the clutch in until you go. Rule number 3, when you're stopping, you need to push in the clutch or put it into neutral. You push in the clutch right before it stalls, or earlier if you'd like. You'll know that limit before it stalls. Trust me, after you try it a few times, try to get going a few times, you'll know the limits. Rule number 4. Alright, so another key factor in driving stick is you need to know what the RPMs are. So the RPM range has to do with your transmission, and it's different for every car. My car goes up to 7,000 RPMs until it hits red line. So you just need to know where to shift. You could shift at 5,000 RPMs, but it's just going to be louder, and you're going to have a lot more torque ready to go. For my car, 1 to 3,000 RPMs is where it's kind of slow, but it's different for every car. So the RPM range in the very beginning, probably for most cars, the general rule would be like 1 to 2,500 RPMs. You're not going to get any torque really for most. So just be aware of that. If you're in 5th gear and you're at 1,000 RPMs and you try to slam the gas, it's not going to go anywhere. You have to downshift into a higher or a lower gear so that you get the RPMs to where you need them to be at like 4,000, then you could hit the gas, then you could go. Rule number 5, when pressing in the clutch, let off the gas. Before you press in the clutch, let off the gas. If you don't, is it going to do much? No, not really. It's just going to rev your engine really high, and it's not going to be very good when you shift into the next gear. The car's going to sound like it's going really fast, and then it's just going to not go fast. It's just going to stop. It's not going to stall. It's not going to be very pleasant. Just let off the gas every time you press in the clutch. That's another rule. Rule number 6, you'll never stall in neutral. So every time you put it into neutral, you don't have to worry about pressing in the clutch right before it stalls. It's not going to stall at all. Neutral is a safe gear. You can use it while slowing down to go to a stoplight. The clutch can also be used for slowing down and then later turning into a different gear, but that's not recommended. I'd say that downshifting would be better, but we'll get into downshifting later. So one tip I would say with the clutch is when you're first starting out, I would let out the clutch as slowly as possible to just avoid stalling it the entire way, by the way. So you push in the clutch all the way and you let it out as slow as possible all the way until you can't pull it anymore. You'll figure out where the bite point is. The bite point is the point where you want to let it out the slowest. Literally everything else doesn't matter. 75% of you pulling out the clutch doesn't matter. You can pull it out fast, and then at that bite point you just need to let it out as slow as possible. That's the point that really matters. But in the beginning, just let out the clutch slow as possible, and then you'll figure out where that bite point is later on, and you'll get used to it. When you're first starting out, don't get discouraged. The standstill is the hardest part, and that's the part that you're going to be practicing the most. Just don't get discouraged. Remember that everything else is easy. Standstill is the hardest part. Once you get that down, you know how to drive stick. So another problem I see with a lot of beginners, they say that they're letting out the clutch really slowly, but in reality they're letting out 75% of the clutch slowly, and then the last little bit they just drop it, and that's the most important part. The last little 4 inches is the mostly where the bite point is. So at that part, just let it out the slowest, and then you'll be set. All right, let's get started. So the first thing you're gonna do, obviously the car is off. You're gonna push in the clutch, foot on the gas, start her up. Don't let the clutch out. That's rule number 2. Don't let the clutch out until you're going or you're in neutral. So don't let the clutch out. Put it into first gear. What I would recommend, as I said, just let the clutch out as slowly as possible and put a decent amount of gas. Don't raise the RPMs up too high, but a balance, pulling the clutch out and pushing in the gas just a little bit. Just keep the gas down and pull up the clutch as slow as possible, and you'll get it. All right, now I'm going to show you guys what it looks like in the footwell with my clutch, my feet, to see where they are when I'm just starting to go. All right, now you're moving. The hardest part's over. Now you just need to shift. So how do you do that? So to do that, it's basically the same thing as going from a standstill. All you need to do is you're probably going to be pressing on the gas if you're in first gear. So let off the gas, press in the clutch, shift, let out the clutch slowly, ease onto the gas. That sounded like a lot of steps, but that's a lot easier than going from a standstill, let me tell you that. You guys probably already know that if you're trying right now. Going from a standstill is the hardest part, and that's what you're going to be spending the most time on. Alright, so eventually you're going to have to come to a stop, and you have a couple of options. You could just press in the clutch and then just wait until you come to a stop and then press the brake, obviously. Or you could press in the clutch, put it into neutral, and then just coast, and then just press the brakes. That's all you have to worry about is the brakes. You don't have to worry about downshifting, you don't have to worry about anything else. Just press the brakes, and you're good. You don't have to press in the clutch at all. Neutral is the safe gear. Like I said, it was one of the rules. And then there's downshifting. Downshifting is a more advanced technique, so if you're a beginner, you could skip this part. So what downshifting is, rev matching too. What you're gonna do, so you're in your gear, right? Right now I'm in third. I should not be in third because I'm in a parking lot. It's empty though, so we're good. So you're just gonna press in the clutch, you're gonna blip the throttle, and then you're gonna go down into your next gear. Go down into the lower gear. Alright, so I'm in third gear. I'm gonna downshift, so I'm just gonna press in the clutch, blip the throttle, go into second, and I usually don't go down into first gear. Just because first gear is a little jerky, and there's no real point to go down into first gear. So one thing I forgot to mention about downshifting, when you're rev matching, the reason you blip the throttle is to get the RPM up into the range of the lower gear that you're shifting down into. So one last thing, parking. When you're parking, you'll notice that there is no parking gear like in automatic cars. So what you're gonna do, you can either put it into first gear and then put on your e-brake and then turn off the car, or you can put it into reverse if you're facing downhill or something. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you go and learn how to drive stick.